Nightshade Muse. I am a member of the community here in the Beehole RP. I have about 20 years of roleplay experience from online games to tabletop to LARP. And today I am joined by another member of our community, Dwarven Egg Official.
Hi everybody, Dwarven Egg Official here. Also, member of the Beehole RP community. I as well have over 20 years of experience with roleplay, with games such as Dungeons & Dragons, and you name it, been there, done that.
So today we're covering yet another facet of the fascinating world of RP. This one is probably the most important of our videos, and this is covering our guidelines rulebook. So this is a beefy document, which lots of props to Degman for its beautiful design. So we will be going over this in some detail for you today. There will be sections that we are not going to cover that we will trust you all to be adults and go ahead and read that very important information for yourselves. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Your first two pages are going to be your index, so we're going to go ahead and just come straight to section 1, the Beehole rules. You want to take this one?
Sure. So there's 5 core rules that everything is based off of. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the first one. Core rule number 1, do not organize, participate in, or encourage harassment of others. Disagreements happen and are normal, but continuous, repetitive, or severe negative comments and actions may cross the line into harassment. So let's stay away from that one.
Absolutely, and that dovetails straight into the next one, which is there will be no discrimination, derogatory slurs, racial abuse, threats of violence, sexual harassment of any kind in or out of the city. So that means that when you're in the city, please don't use race as a motivator for things like, oh, the cops pulled me over because, I'm a green alien. Don't use that. Just find other creative ways to engage with other people in the city. We don't want to bring those real world problems into our play.
Yeah, I have to say it. As far as I'm concerned, this is the one place where racism and all of that horrible stuff just doesn't exist.
We're all equals.
I love that. Which brings us down to number 3. This is a semi-serious RP server. So stay in RP, roleplay, when you're in the city to ensure that you separate RP differences from OOC or out-of-character chat. So just try to stay in character as much as possible.
Yeah, it helps both your immersion with inhabiting that personality and also so that you don't take things super personally. And that goes into point 4, which is don't pursue a negative conversation with someone out of character about something they said or did while in the city, in their character. Talk to them about it in character and try to resolve that beef or that miscommunication. You can also see another one of our reference videos about out of character conflict resolution, which will be linked in this document.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, Beehole RP, our community is 18 plus. So if somebody that's a part of staff feels as though you may not be 18, they will ban you from the server. There are a lot of content in here that underage people do not need to be around. So please keep that in mind.
If you are felt to be mature enough, you will be allowed to stay, but I do believe that is a case-by-case basis. So please, 18 and over only. That leads us into the beasting system, which is our warnings, suspensions, and bans. This is supposed to be a fun experience for both yourself and everyone else, and incidents involving violations of the RP guidelines are reviewed by the staff on a case-by-case basis. Minor offenses will lead to a suspension of your account, And the duration will be determined by the time at the time of the investigation. If an incident is deemed major, you could be subject to a bee sting. Extreme circumstances could lead to an immediate ban of your account from all community platforms. So, bee sting 1 is a written warning outlining what you did wrong, what the possible punishments might be for that, and what will happen going forward. Beasting 2 is a voice conversation with one or more of the admins, another written warning, and a possible suspension. Beasting 3, you will meet the judgment of Honorable Lord Judge Beezus. And all hail Beezus. And your judgment may take place in an RP setting, depending on the degree of the infraction and the history of the player. Some issues that may be caused might need to be played out in roleplay, but let's really try not to get there.
Yeah, that being said, brings us directly into Section 3, the reporting of violations and player misconduct. If you really truly feel as though something has gotten out of hand, or you feel like somebody is doing something that is against the guidelines or rules, there are two different ways that you can report. You can either do it by making a ticket in the Discord under player report, or you can alternately in-game T/report. So think /. So you would actually physically hit T, do a /, type report, hit enter, and you can report a player.
Brings up a whole menu right there. Very easy to do. And so there are some information about our city's laws and regulations. Please do make sure to avail yourself of that information. We do expect everyone to review this document with their eyes. So this brings us to our roleplay standards. This is a semi-serious roleplay server, and it is expected that you always maintain an elevated level of roleplay in the city, especially since many players in this community are often wearing a live body cam or streaming while playing. And semi-serious can be a little bit of a gray area. This sits slap bang in the middle of the two other types. Here, you're given much more of an opportunity to flex your intellectual and storytelling muscles, as your involvement in the practice is much more fluid. Even if you're new to RP, this doesn't limit you, and there are many activities within the server that you can do to help develop those skills as quickly or as slowly as you'd like. Overall, this style of roleplay, semi-serious, still maintains some of the ridiculous humor that can be found on casual servers, but puts a cap on it to limit it from exceeding to being too much out of character content. It provides opportunities for more serious players to come together and create content, but also in a more casual and laid-back environment than some of the more serious servers provide. Each scenario or situation will be different, and you'll need to use some common sense and these guidelines right here to give your best approach to RP scenarios. Engagement with players to generate fun and meaningful scenarios is something that we strive for. We love that. Everybody really just wants to tell stories with you. So be sure that you've read this document and asked any relevant questions. We're always in the Discord looking for people to chit chat with. So if you have any questions, always feel free to pipe on up.
And furthermore from that, if you actually scroll down to section 16 when you get a hold of this document, there's links that Muse and I have made videos giving you a little more in-depth about how it is to roleplay, how to make characters, and things like that. So please be sure to check those out as well.
Yeah. Let's see here. So this dovetails right on into section 6, which is our general rules and requirements. Names. Really, you need to be realistic. While it can be a bit of play on words, we do have a Pat McGroin and a Mary Fomoney, so you can make it plays on words, but please do make it somewhere within the realm of possibility. It has to be first and a last name. Can't be offensive. You cannot impersonate a known celebrity, an influencer, somebody you know. We recommend that you also don't use any part of your real name anywhere in the community or online at all. Come on now. Your Discord nickname Also, please do set that to be the name of your primary character. That way we can identify who you play. As mine shows, I'm Nightshade Muse, but what it comes up as is Dr. Victory Rose, and then I have some parentheses with my secondary character. So it just makes it a little easier for people to know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads us into account responsibility. If someone else is playing on your account and they break any of our rules, you're accountable for that person's actions. No leniency will be given because someone else is playing on your account for a short period of time. So, again, be responsible with your characters and keep them happy and healthy.
Exactly. And also, number 3, that leads right into mods, menus, and other applications. We do not allow any third-party software to be used while accessing the Beehole RP server. This includes tracers, snow props, crosshairs, aimbots, mod menus. Think of it, you can't have it. None of it. No. So don't use any of that. And if you're caught using it, it'll result in a bee sting. If you know somebody who's using it, don't pipe up. That could be a... So everybody, let's keep our server happy, healthy, and safe.
Absolutely. And that comes down to final one here, microphones. You need to have a working microphone to play on the server. When on the server, it is recommended that you enable push to talk in the voice chat settings of the game. This helps ensure open mic issues do not occur, such as having kids in the background or my dog that you can now hear barking. If you are confident that this is not an issue, proceed using your best judgment. Please be respectful of everybody else, and if needed, use push to talk.
Yeah, because it can be really easy to leave your mic open if you're by yourself or you're not on body cam and don't have a chat to talk to. But if all of a sudden your partner comes in the room and then you're having a side conversation, make sure that you either set a push to mute or a push to talk button so that you can keep everyone else's immersion safe, including your own. So this moves on to section 7, player rules. These are very important, can get a little wordy, so we will do our best to provide as much clarity as possible. So the first one is no intent to roleplay. Lack of intent to roleplay a scenario is considered failed RP, which is something that we'll also cover. These two kind of go together. You have a lot of freedoms and ability to make choices in the games. However, sometimes your actions will trigger a scenario to be started by another player. For example, a cop that pulls you over for speeding. Shooting that cop at a traffic stop because you don't want to play out the scenario for whatever reason is completely unrealistic. If you speed off and trigger a high-speed chase, that would also be under failed RP. The only way that that scenario could be realistic is if you were escaping from a major crime or had a warrant. Otherwise, that wouldn't be very realistic, and so you want to use your best judgment and play out the scenarios realistically based on the situation at hand. Try to find a funny way to get out of it, or a creative excuse, or just take your L and move on. However your character would handle that, but typically going straight to violence rarely.
Yeah, and as stated above, failed RP. Failed RP is not role-playing realistically in a scenario. Essentially, it is an action that your character commits that is probable. Whether that be taking unrealistic actions or intentionally disrupting the roleplay by trolling. Failed RP can happen in a lot of different ways. Please treat your character like you are them and follow what that character would actually do in real life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that coalesces with no value of life, or NVL, and fear RP. So this kind of all snowballs together because you want it to seem like your character's life matters. So no value of life is a very important rule not to break. This refers to players treating situations like real life and treating your character's life like there's only one to live. So if you're in a robbery situation and there are 3 assailants and yourself, you're not going to try to fight off all of these armed assailants. because the probability of you winning that fight is going to be pretty low. So most people would hand over their jewelry and money and move on. Fighting in these situations only makes sense if you need to fight for you, if some kind of scuffle has already been initiated. Fear RP is very much the same, and it's not fearing for your life. Citizens should not be going around the city acting like they're vigilantes or Batman. Don't try to play the superhero, and try to make it seem like your life has value and that those hospital bills are expensive, because they are.
Yes, they are. That brings us down to section 4, metagaming. Metagaming is the act of using knowledge that your character cannot possibly have. If you use different characters, you cannot use your knowledge from one character to advance another. Using knowledge gained from OOC DMs, voice chats, etc. is considered metagaming. Watching someone's live stream and then stream sniping them is also a form of metagaming. Basically, think to yourself, would my character know this? Before you act on it. It's something that everybody's going to do, even accidentally. Especially if you're new to RP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And power gaming also falls under gotta keep an eye on. Power gaming involves using game mechanics to alter a situation to suit your desires. Don't ruin other people's experiences by abusing a game mechanic to execute an unrealistic scenario. So power gaming can come up in a lot of scenarios, and in most cases, the person violating this rule is not really aware that they're doing it. Some examples of this would be like taking multiple taser shots and not role playing out that you're injured or disoriented, or driving off a really unsurvivable cliff during a police pursuit, even though in this game it most likely won't kill you if you're wearing your seatbelt. That's still power gaming, because the police logically would not pursue you down there because you just drove your car off a cliff. So that way you have now escaped your pursuer, but you exploited a mechanic in order to do it. So don't do that.
Yeah, so that would lead us into combat logging.
Mm-hmm.
Combat logging is logging out to avoid something. Say that you get into a shootout and you think you're going to lose it. You don't want to lose all your stuff, so you FA quit and get out. This way you're safe. Don't do that. It's not fair. It's not fun. You're going to get the L. Take the L. Maybe you're going to jail. Maybe you get shot and robbed. Don't log out. If you're caught doing this, it can result in bee stings for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it happens that your computer crashed for whatever reason, these happen, are totally reasonable, and we can always have that crash report taken from your computer and given to the Beehole staff so that they can know that you indeed did have a crash and didn't just F8 out. So there are absolutely ways to prove that you indeed had a crash, and you don't have to worry about it. So please don't worry that a simple crash will be taken again.
Correct. Yeah, it's easily rectified.
Mm-hmm. So breaking RP is something that can happen, especially with newer players. Always attempt to stay in character when you're in the city. Nothing out of character should be discussed at great length. This is what the Discord is for. If you're not sure about something or need to come out of character, try to do that discreetly and then try to return to character as soon as possible. So let's say you're by yourself with a friend. You can always just say, hey, OOC, blah, 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 whatever you need to say, and then pop back into character if you just have a quick message for them or a note or something that you need to clarify, if that's okay with your friend, if they're cool with you doing it. You want to, if you're in a crowded place, to take your character and the other character who are having a lot of character conversation. You're going to want to take those avatars and take them away from the other characters that are actively in a scene. And you're going to want to, there are 3 different settings for your voice box in City. You're going to want to put that on whisper so that no one can overhear your out of character conversation, which can kind of taint other scenes that are going on and they have to just pretend to ignore you. So just try to be conscientious of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Breaking RP, it can ruin immersion and really throw people off too. So just try to limit it as much as possible. Which can, bring us down here to using exploits. Exploits are flaws in the code or in the game itself that can provide you with an advantage. Something such as perhaps a wall is invisible, you know it's invisible, and you know that you could stand there and not be hurt from taking gunfire. Exploits are things like if you're in jail and you happen to find that a back corner of a cell, if you jump, it will suddenly teleport you outside. That's not breaking out of jail. That's failed RP, and it's using an exploit. Don't do it. It ruins the game for everybody else. We're all here trying to have fun, and we're all doing the same struggles.
Character farming is an issue that has been found on other servers. Character farming is transferring resources, currency, property, etc. to another one of your characters. This is considered a form of cheating. This includes giving items to a friend in game to give back to a different character. Beehole staff monitor in-game logs to flag actions such as this and investigate concerns within the log when necessary. Character slots are also issued to members based on their time and experience in the community to avoid this issue. As a new member, you can only have 1 character slot. So we're hoping that by the time people get to their 2nd character slot, they understand how this is supposed to function, and items should not be passed back and forth without a very good story reason. Be prepared with an explanation.
Exactly. Now we're going to get into something a little bit more important. Erotic roleplay, or known as ERP and nudity. ERP must be consented to by all parties. Gonna say that again because it shouldn't have to be told, but ERP must be consented to by all parties, and all parties have to be 18 or older. It must be conducted in the privacy of a residence, so don't be banging on the roof of a police department or in one of the back rooms at the hospital or out in a park. Don't do it. There are some creative ways to display nudity in this server, so please be mindful of others who may be using live body cam, in other words, streaming, because it can get a ban on streaming platforms. So
Yes.
just be mindful of these things.
Also,
it's there to enhance.
For those wearing the body cam, you have a responsibility as well. It is not the world's responsibility solely to protect your beauty. It is also your responsibility. Go places where people be nude, as in the strip club, that kind of counts. Don't go places where there might be nudity, because then you're opening yourself up for that to be something that your viewers. So please do be mindful of where you're taking your viewers in.
Absolutely. And have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it's your level of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Going down.
That's the new life rule.
The new life rule, yes.
Yes. So, you want to cut the...
No, please.
I'll take this one then. All right. So with the new life rule, this one, I have to deal with this one a lot. So when you go down, you'll start bleeding out. If you're revived by EMS while you're bleeding out, you are considered able to retain the memory of all events that led up to you needing to be healed. When the timer for bleeding out hits 0, however, your character will stop moving and be considered dead. When you are revived, the new life rule will take effect. This means that everything that occurred in the last 30 minutes leading up to your death must be forgotten in character. You can regain this knowledge, but you must do that through RP. So let's say you got into a shootout with someone else. While you, the player, know that Marco killed you, your character doesn't know that. So you can't just immediately get up, go out and take revenge on that guy. You might have to talk to your buddy who was with you, or, review crime scene footage or something like that to find out how you lost your. So those are very important to remember because they will be strictly enforced.
And speaking of that, there is also a new character rule. If for some reason your first character passes on, you decide you want to do somebody new, you have a new character rule. This means you must have significantly reduced knowledge of the city or have none at all. So when you create this new character, you're going to have to RP it out. You're going to have to re-explore the city and create new relationships because it's a whole nother person. It is realistic if your new character knows someone in the city and your RP backstory explains that connection. However, to reclaim full knowledge of the city's secrets and all previous relationships would be failed RP.
Have to re-meet all of those people and find all of those things.
Absolutely.
And
did you want to take character kill?
yeah, I'll take that one. So these two kind of go hand in hand. If you're looking to permanently end a character's life in the city, you must first create a ticket in the Discord explaining why you want to end that character's life, yours or another character's. If this is approved by an admin, you and the admin will discuss the ways in which this character will be killed off, and if you will follow the guidelines and you will follow the guidelines set forth by the admin at that time for how the scene should play out. Your character will be removed officially in an RP fashion and rest forever. So it's permanent. There's no going back once you initiate a character kill. It's dead. And that can happen to your own character, or you can initiate that against someone else's character. That takes a little more time, effort, and energy, so you can't just come in and be like, hey, I don't like that guy, I want a character kill him. You have to have a real good reason.
Yeah, and to finish up with that, terrorism and suicide are terrorism and suicide are very, very sensitive subjects. And in an RP scenario, it's often very uncomfortable and unenjoyable to experience. For these reasons, these scenarios of this nature are prohibited. So, if you did want to get rid of your other character, come up with something other than I hung myself or something terrible like that. But we're not here to trigger anybody or make anybody feel any type of way. So, let's stay away from terrorism and
yeah. Well, topics can get heavy. Yeah, topics can get heavy in RP, but these are two that we'd like to definitely keep our community safe from.
Absolutely.
Now we're on to Section 8, interaction rules, and these are pretty important. The first is the random deathmatch. And the random deathmatch, or RDM, is how you'll usually hear it referred to, is the act of killing people randomly with no RP purpose or interaction. Standing on the street, shooting up everyone for the fun of doing it is not acceptable. I will say that again. It is not acceptable. This also includes randomly killing people with the use of vehicles, also known as VDM. If you are going to take someone out, you cannot just walk or sneak up to them and kill them. You must initiate at least 30 seconds of role play to have a scenario start. So, while yes, you can get got out here in the real world, we're playing a game. So in this game, you have to give somebody 30 seconds of interaction in order for them to prepare for whatever's about to happen. You can talk your talk, you can talk your smack, you can do whatever, you can threaten them, whatever you need to do. It just has to be 30 seconds before you start getting to the violence.
Yeah, and as stated before, number 2 is VDM, vehicular deathmatch. Just because you've got a nice big truck doesn't mean that you need to be just driving up to groups of people and running them down. That's not fun for everybody.
No.
Anybody. Using your vehicle as a weapon in combat scenario is prohibited. I will say, if for some reason, hang on, Addie, sorry, if for some reason it is a scenario where you get into your car and you're running away, and you accidentally clip somebody, obviously that's not an intentional BDM.
Yeah.
And these things will be reviewed.
Absolutely. So with the intentional vehicle ramming, just don't keep at it. If you hit it one time, no one's going to be mad at you. But don't keep messing up their stuff, because that's starting a conflict for no reason. That is intentional ramming. That moves us on to robbing players. There must be a legitimate roleplay reason here in the Beehole RP to rob someone. This can be a gray area, but a legitimate reason is not just because you need money. Do not rob players constantly. Failure to follow this rule will result in disciplinary action. Robbing members of the local authorities is prohibited. You cannot rob fire, EMS, or police of their possessions if you down them or incapacitate them in any way. Do not do that. This rule is to ensure people are not constantly robbing authorities for resource farming. You cannot take their weapons, not take their med kits. Do not do this. This moves to hostage taking. Would you like to cover hostage taking?
Yeah, so hostage taking is something that is acceptable in the Beehole RP. However, there are scenarios where it's not acceptable. Those would be attempting to gain a financial advantage by seeking cash from police in exchange for hostages, seeking to exchange the hostage for someone in prison. You are taking an active EMS character hostage. You can't do that. The hostage is taken randomly with no RP purpose or RP interaction. Or if the hostage is a cop and there are less than 3 cops online in total. Utilizing police as a hostage for robberies is permitted, but frowned upon, and should be actioned only as a last resort. Taking a cop hostage as your primary plan or repeatedly takes away from RP for the cops and is considered failed RP.
Yeah.
So yes, you can take hostages, and there are reasons and scenarios that you're going to have to RP to figure out, but you can take hostages, just don't do it under these circumstances.
Exactly. And also, if you do so happen to down someone, camping their dead body for the purpose of trolling them, or to get a reaction, or to kill them again once the EMS arrives, is prohibited and falls under fail RP, and you will receive feasting, paving, manner.
Which also comes to spamming chats. Don't spam OOC with your thing. You can report things such as you're down, you need help, to the police or EMS. You do /911E for emergency services or /911P for the police. Don't spam. I'm dead. Don't do that. It's
use the in-character ways to get your character help.
Absolutely. So use that as a, hey, General, I'm here. But if it's something where you're not getting help repeatedly over and over again, then definitely open a ticket to Discord and report that.
Absolutely. Vehicle and house scamming and in real life currency trading. Do not sell vehicles and or house assets that you do not own to new or existing players to scam them out of in-game cash. Players cannot sell assets and resources for IRL cash. This action is strictly prohibited and are grounds for a ban. If you are caught with assets or resources that were purchased from another player with IRL cash, they will be seized. The only way to purchase things with IRL cash is through the Beehole store. There are a little present on the map in the game where you can see some of the things that are available for purchase. You can always ask in the Discord or listen buddy no. People are always happy to help you find a way to spend it, only through the channels that are approved. Full story.
Absolutely. If for some reason you go down, you're bleeding out, you're down, you need help. While you're bleeding, it is totally acceptable for you to be able to speak. However, we would ask that you try to stay in character, make it sound like you're hurt, what your injuries are, and things like that. So you should not be just talking and having a normal conversation. Once your timer has expired and it hits 0, your character is now dead. Dead folks tell no tales. So you're not talking. That means you cannot use the radio, make phone calls, or talk to anybody around you. If somebody is doing this, just ignore them and maybe lightly remind them, OOC, hey, you're dead. Additionally to that, using external communication systems such as Discord, texting on your phone, phone calls, or anything like that, prohibited. That is failed RP and power gaming. So,
you can't let anyone know.
Yep, you just gotta, unfortunately, you gotta take the L. It's gonna happen. You're gonna get a lot of dubs, you're gonna take a whole bunch of L's.
So that brings us to griefing, which is when you're reaching out to another member of the community, either out of character or in, to discuss your frustrations about a new or ongoing issue. You really got to do this in a respectful manner. Please make sure that you see our video on out of character conflict resolution to get a little more in-depth information for this. But if you cannot have a respectful conversation, do not do it at all. Take another avenue to resolving this problem. Being accusatory, berating, or overall negative in nature is considered harassment of another community member and will not be tolerated. Continuously harassing other players in multiple scenarios in a row is prohibited. Please do make sure that you remember this is a game and have fun. Permanent death is something that we did discuss. That is also another name for character kill. This is a permanent thing. It's a new life rule. There is no coming back from it. Please do be cognizant of that before making that big decision.
Moving into section 9, city rules. We're going to kind of go a little bit quicker through this section here, as I am expecting you guys just to take the 10 minutes to read through this. But first and foremost are green zones. Green zones are public meeting buildings such as police department, hospital, clothing store, restaurants, businesses, anywhere like that where groups of people can go. These are green zones, meaning there could be no conflict, there could be nothing illegal. It is a totally safe zone. This extends to the sidewalk in front, and if it has a parking lot, the parking lot as well. Do not camp green zones. Don't get caught doing it. But yeah, they are a combat-free zone. Also, don't use a green zone to run in there because you want to get away from something happening. If you are chased into a green zone, you and only you are on the table.
Your fair game still within that green zone. So that moves us to jobs. Players are allowed to have 2 jobs, whitelisted jobs per character. Some whitelisted job examples include police, EMS, bartender, mechanic, realtor. Blacklisted jobs include drug dealing, selling weapons, prostitution, and robbery. Players should ensure that they're spending their time at their whitelisted jobs and should not be surprised if they get fired because the leaders or owners don't think that you're working. So please do make sure that you're making some time for this. When you are on a job, you are required to use the work vehicle and uniform provided by that job. This allows others to identify you. The only exceptions to this is if you are an undercover cop. That is literally the only exception to this rule. Everyone except for the heads of EMS are also required to wear very specific uniforms. So please do make sure that you are using and wearing your uniforms and work ordered vehicles when you're on your job. You have to be signed into the job, and when you are done working, make sure that you sign out for the job. If you're stepping away or doing something like that, the best practice is to go off duty. If you are caught doing crime while you're doing your whitelisted job, you may be fired from your job, you might be fined, and you might be jailed. So, corruption in a job should be something that your character is pushed to do or evolve to do through RP. You should not just join the police force for the example of being a corrupt cop. That should be something that happens through the gameplay. But it should not happen just because you're like, okay, I want to play a corrupt cop. You got to get them to the tipping point for that to happen. It can't just start out that way. So this continues, it's kind of like another A point here, is business owners. So business owners, you have responsibilities as well. For a business owner, you need to be opening up your business regularly. There is currently no specific frequency or amount of time in which a business needs to be open each week, but however, being closed for 7 consecutive days becomes a concern. So there are some stipulations for that. Please do make sure you're reading through this document if you plan to own a business within our city, and ask any relevant questions of the other business owners to get a better feel of how they split their time in the city and how they run their business.
Yeah, being a business owner is a lot of work. So really, guys, it is a privilege that we've got stuff like this where we have custom businesses. So really think about it, and
make sure you have the time to devote to it. Yeah.
Graffiti and tagging. So players are not allowed to tag or graffiti any government property or facilities. Hospitals, FBI buildings, CIA, cops, anything that is owned by the government, leave it alone. Also ensure that any of your tags or graffiti, they don't violate any of the core rules. Like, don't have a giant dick as your graffiti.
No racial slurs, nothing like that. Be smart.
Absolutely. Also, furthermore, stealing or driving an emergency vehicle is prohibited. If you are not on duty in one of these jobs, you're not allowed to be driving one of these vehicles. You are allowed to loot them, though.
If they are left unlocked.
Yes, if they are left unlocked, you are allowed to loot them.
Aircrafts. Under no circumstances can you steal or operate an aircraft unless you are part of a whitelisted job that requires you to use an aircraft, or you are in a heist scenario, or your job allows you to do that where you have gotten a pilot's license. Otherwise, aircrafts are a no-no, guys. Our sections 10 through 13 contain our city's bylaws, rules of engagement for gang activity. It also covers heists and gang wars, things like that. Please make sure, if you're interested in engaging in that activity, that you read those sections in their entirety and ask any questions that you may have. So we're going to move on now to section 14, roles and responsibilities. And this just gives us a list of some common terms here. Our server owner is Elmoxy Beezus. Has complete oversight of everything within the community. His word is the last word on absolutely everything that happens.
Yeah, the next person that you might run across would be a server RP admin. These are people that are there to remedy support tickets for players, respond to in-game reports, handle guideline inquiries, and basically overall, these are the high priests and priestesses of Beezus, and they're there just to kind of help everybody out, make sure everything is fair.
Exactly. The city mayor hears out city grievances, so grievances from the citizens themselves, builds relationships with other city officials, manages tax management for businesses, ensures that businesses are open and operating, conducts town hall meetings, meets with Beezus on a regular basis to provide city hall reports, and discuss recommendations for city improvements.
Further down the list, we're going to get to judges. Um, there will be a time where the city will open up its law um, uh, side, where there will be trials and maybe you could sue other players, things like that. So judges are going to conduct the hearings when a case goes to court and determine the outcome and everything else like that. They also will be processing warrants for the police and basic judge duties.
The district attorney is their right hand, which prosecutes on behalf of the city using evidence collected by the PD or other government agencies.
The top of the police department would be the chief of police. He's in charge of all the inner city police force, conducts all the training, implements training and policies, meets with the mayor regularly, reports on city crimes, will be giving press conferences in the future and doing other things to oversee the police.
The sheriff, however, is in charge of county law enforcement and conducts training, implements policies, and meets with the mayor regularly to report on crime activity while providing recommendations to enhancements for the county.
And I feel weird taking EMS.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take that. So EMS chief, in charge of all medical facilities, responsible for all medical staff, conducts training for new hires, implements EMS policies, meets with the mayor as required, providing recommendations for enhancements to medical service divisions. Yeah, it's a lot of a job.
It sure is.
So glad I have Lumi.
The good doctor. And of course, we also are going to have a fire department. There will be a fire chief who, a lot of the same. He's going to be in charge of the fire facilities, responsible for all fire staff, conduct training on new hires, implements policies, meets with the mayor, and provides the recommendations for fire department.
We are all friends here, and we want everyone to feel as if the RP admins are here to help. They're not here to sway a power dynamic or be a certain way due to their powers. As admins, their job is to spectate, observe, and report. At no point should the admin character's power disrupt or be of any part of any other character's roleplay scenarios or be utilized to enhance the roleplay at hand. If we see minor issues with a roleplay scenario, they will connect the players or collect all of them and debrief them afterwards. If a significant violation of the guidelines is occurring, then they'll step in as if a player approaches you in game in an RP admin capacity, you must stop your gameplay and interact out of character and follow any instructions given to you. If this is ignored, it could result in suspension. Why don't you take that bold underline?
Yeah. Impersonating an RP admin, EMS, fire department, police, or sheriff, or any of the other roles mentioned above is a direct violation and subject to multiple bee stings.
Bad time.
Gonna be not so good.
So please, guys, we hope that you have enjoyed this video, that we've helped you go through the rules here. Please do see section 16 for the links to the rest of our videos that we've covered here on Storyteller Corner for the Beehole RP. We hope that they help you along your journey, and we hope to meet you all in the city very soon.
Have fun.
Bye.